The recent decision by state government to enforce vaccine mandates across a number of industries has caused a bit of a divide amongst Victorians. Those in opposition to the move have taken to the streets and social media to decry these vaccine mandates as a violation of human rights set forth by a dictatorial government. It's impossible to imagine what could have possibly given them that idea.
Melbourne is the only place in the world with measures such as this. And as I will suggest in a moment, they're most probably all illegal.
But it does beg the question, are they? To answer that, we'll need a brief rundown of how human rights law works in Australia. We don't have enshrined human rights at the national level like the US, but in Victoria we have the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act of 2006, and this is what most people point to when they call the vaccine mandates a violation. If we take this single subsect of a 47-page legal document and don't bother to contextualise it, it's pretty easy to see why some would contend that we live in an Orwellian dictatorship, even if the actual mandate doesn't technically force a vaccination without consent. When you speak to experts on the subject, the picture becomes a little more clear.
The argument around human rights, I think, doesn't really fly so much because human rights is all about balance and proportionality. And so what it's doing is basically judging risk. And it is saying, would it be reasonable in a pandemic for either business or for government to mandate certain requirements where you're going to have contact with people, etc., and we're in the middle of a pandemic?
Human rights law is not as black and white as some members of the public seem to think. It's about the weighing of individual freedoms against the collective good. This is the deciding factor in the drafting of legislation that may restrict or infringe on human rights, and the ability to do so is baked into the original act. It's why we have hepatitis B vaccine mandates for hospital workers, or why we have protections from hate speech. So, if you have any questions about how human rights work in Australia, it's probably worth listening to what experts have to say, and not Craig Kelly.